So my name's Hannah, and for our little cosplay account, I thought I would just talk about how to make a Millennium Puzzle. I did do quite a lot of research online before I started doing mine. You can find a few tutorials, but there isn't any video tutorials. There's one for all the Millennium items, which is a really good one to look at, which I would recommend you go look at. But for someone like me, I like it to be as easy as it can be, and not too technical. So it has to be fast when I do it. And obviously I'm planning to do a Yami Yugi cosplay for Midlands Expo. And this is like my second cosplay. My first one was Zatanna, which was really easy. Everything that I needed for that I could find. And then I've moved on to Yami Yugi, which I must admit is a bit of a difficulty jump, but I'm getting there. But yeah, so I had to think about how to make the puzzle, and I needed some help with it, really. Looking online, I couldn't really find much. Obviously, your best bet is to start with just researching how it looks. I mean, I've got plenty of manga to look at, but just doing image searches online, looking through the anime, really you need to sort of check which version you're going to do. When you're looking at Millennium Puzzles, when you look at other cosplays, which is another good way to start, they vary so much. You can have proper huge ones and then really little tiny ones, and some are incredibly detailed, others go for the more simplistic look. I've kind of tried to go for something middle of the road, so it's not bogged down with detail to the point in which I thought I'd mess it up. But there's still enough there for you to see that it's made of pieces. And so this is my Millennium Puzzle. It's my first attempt, so you've got to give me a bit of leeway. As you can see, the little eye and everything. Can't really tell on my webcam because my webcam's terrible, but it has all the pieces. Vaguely. On the bottom pieces, corner, top, and a chain. So, one really good tutorial which I used to help me make this can be found at www.thenoodleball.com / and I think it's pronounced Jungjulia. I'm not sure, but I'll put a link up in the description afterwards. Now, her tutorial is really good. The only problem I had with it is she used plywood, and I'm not technical enough or skilled enough to use plywood, and I don't have the equipment to make a good job of it. So that was my starting point, really. So I went to a DIY shop with the intention of using this method. When I got there, I couldn't find plywood small enough or cheap enough. It was too expensive, and it came in massive sheets, which would have been a total waste. So I sat there with my mom, and she was really fed up. So she kind of just said, "Why don't you use MDF?" Which is thought, great, yeah, it's about £3 a sheet. That's fine. I got it home. I don't have a saw good enough to cut lines out, and that's where you're gonna go wrong with this. It needs to be so exact and just perfect edges, which I couldn't do, and my first attempt was dreadful. I had these horribly cut out triangles. And I was really fed up, and my mum just said, she was just sat there and she was like, "Why didn't you use paper mache?" And I'd always been put off by paper mache because it's something little kids do and it never looks good. But that's actually what I've done. The base of mine, so the sort of structure of it, is made out of the back of sketch pads. So it's this sort of thick board. You see the thickness of it there? And it works really well because it's about the thickness of the plywood that you'd need anyway. But obviously, it being cardboard, it's much easier to cut out to the measurements that you need. Obviously, when you start making a puzzle, you need a template. But as I said, on the link that I said earlier, there is a template on there. I'll put the links up at the end of the video. And that's basically it. You need 4 triangles cut out of this stuff. It can be quite hard, but if you persevere with it, you'll get some really nice, sort of accurate, like triangles. I used 4 triangles, obviously, even though I will admit I started making it and just was like, oh, triangles only have 3 sides. I only need 3 triangles, but evidently my brain wasn't working. And then you just need, when you've done that, you need obviously to measure 2 squares for the top, one being about 1.5 centimeters into the other one. Sticking the triangles together is not an easy task, and it is really something you've just got to persevere with. You just need loads of PVA. You just need to cover the whole thing in PVA. I had so much glue on my hands I couldn't get it off. Masking tape and scotch tape are good to, just to put over the bind, like put over this bit while it's gluing, just to give it a bit of strength. The inside of mine is actually covered in scotch tape, just from side to side to pull it all together. But the paper mache part of mine, I did, instead of ripping pieces of tissue off or just pieces of paper randomly, I actually sat and I cut out like lines of paper rather than just having these shreds of it. I don't know if you'll be able to tell because my webcam's really bad, but because I cut out lines, because you're never going to get a smooth texture with paper mache, so cutting out the lines, you can't see it, I actually got the effect sort of it being in pieces. Obviously it's not what the puzzle looks like, but if you're like me and you're working on a budget and you're not exactly the best person at making something, it's just so much better to have this sort of line, and it gives it a really nice smooth finish. Because after mine was glued before I put the paper mache on, it really did just look terrible. But I persevered with it. I carried on with it, and it didn't turn out too bad. Sorry, picking this up. It's so noisy. The pieces of mine, so the corner, the end bit, the corner bits, the weird shape near the eye, that's all cut out of Bristol board. I use it for art, so I have loads of it lying around. Card will do just as well. Just don't use paper. You need something that's thick enough to stand out, but isn't too thick to be able to cut accurately. It needs to be thick to withstand the glue and the paint you'll put on it. The paint finish on mine is plastic coat fast dry enamel. I have this in brass rather than gold, because gold usually has a bit too much of a yellow tint to it, which it goes a bit more orangey, and I don't like that. I prefer to have the darker look. It's really good, obviously, because it dries in 20 minutes, I think. You get a nice coat. I will advise, you need to do it in an open space. I didn't, and I think I might have shaved about 5 years off my life from my lungs. I think my puzzle might have took about 3 coats, because I painted it all, and then I stuck the like details on because I wasn't sure whether I wanted them or not. The eye on the front, which again was the first attempt, you really just need to look at pictures you can find online, any manga you've got, anime, whatever. It was made out of Fimo. You can get, if you're in England, I'm pretty sure you can get it in America as well, but you can find Fimo in Hobbycraft. I think it's about £2.50, it might even be less than that for a small block. I used it in white. I mean, I think you can get gold, but I used it in white anyway, and it's really easy to use. It's kind of like plasticine, but you can cook it and it'll harden up, and then you can paint it whatever you want. I'll admit it was hard to find a way to fix the chain to the top of my puzzle, and I'm not too happy with how it looks because it's not the large ring that I wanted, but because I essentially made it out of cardboard, I didn't obviously want to be putting too much pressure onto the top because it would just all collapse. That's a gold hook. You can buy them in B&Q. They're about £1.18 for a pack of 6, and it's just a screw, and it's essentially just screwed in, but it is actually really secure. The chain, I actually thought I'd have a real trouble finding. Went into Hobbycraft, they don't do anything that's thick enough. This is just normal everyday chain that I bought from B&Q. It was a metre, I think it was £3.18 for a metre. It's not bad. It's a bit heavy, but I think it is the thickness that you need. But with the puzzle being made out of cardboard and not a form of wood, it is actually really light. It weighs nothing, and this doesn't. This just adds all the weight to it, really. So that's my way of doing the puzzle. Like I said, it's just persevering with it and not being afraid to use cardboard. I think everyone, when they come to the puzzle, they think, oh, I'm going to have to carve out or something. But I think it worked pretty well, and I'm going to run out of time now. So if you've got any questions, obviously just ask. If not, happy and good luck making puzzles.